Welcome everybody to another edition of Turnpike to WrestleMania. If you're watching the video version, you can see that I am not on set. This is not the conventional Turnpike to WrestleMania. Unfortunately, my partner, the Latin liaison Isaiah, was not available to film today. So I'm doing this solo, and we're going to see how this goes. It could go really well or it could go really poorly, but we're going to find out one way or another. So I got the good old iPad here with the Raw results, the SmackDown results, and the Raw preview already loaded up. And what I figured I would try and do to kind of change things up is I'm going to actually read what WWE.com put as the results and the preview, because I found in my personal experience that whoever they've got on the digital team there is can be one of the most skilled writers or one of the worst writers I have ever seen, and I just find it hilarious. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run through the recaps, run through the preview, and give my thoughts on everything, and we'll wrap this thing up and hopefully be back to our normal Turnpike to WrestleMania format next week. So let's start out with Raw. Seth Rollins attacked Drew McIntyre and confronted Universal Champion Brock Lesnar. At this point on the road to WrestleMania 34, Brock Lesnar was no-showing his advertised dates as a power play to get inside his challenger's head. At WrestleMania 35, however, he's facing Seth Rollins, and Seth Rollins, as we saw last week, might just have him clocked. So the Beast showed up as advertised in an appearance that was one part pose down, one part fire and brimstone missive from Paul Heyman, and perhaps one part strategy. After all, if Rollins possesses the speed advantage that gives the Conqueror fits, Lesnar would do well to keep his would-be Slayer where he can see him, even if, as Heyman said, all the fleet-footed superstars Rollins mentioned as evidence of Lesnar's blind spot, AJ Styles, Daniel Bryan, and Finn Balor, lost their respective matches. Not that the Beast is lacking for challengers, even prospective ones. Drew McIntyre took out 2/3 of the Shield last week, and seemed to think a victory against Rollins later tonight was so much of a sure thing that he confronted Team Brock and floated himself as a prospective replacement for WrestleMania. In that, he spoke too soon. The Kingslayer ambushed McIntyre from behind, unleashing several chair strikes across the back of the, quote, career killer, unquote, and bending the steel before making a beeline for the Beast. Only Lesnar wasn't having it, and he bailed on his challenger before Seth could throw hands. Points awarded to Rollins for provoking the Beast out into the open, but if he wants to draw Brock into a fight, he'll have to try a little harder. So on the whole Brock Lesnar, Seth Rollins thing, I don't know what's going to happen. To be completely honest, my thoughts going into WrestleMania have changed significantly. I have no idea what to expect. If you watched the last Turnpike, I said 2 of 3 of the final results are probably going to be the happy ones. Out of the Becky, Ronda, Charlotte match, out of the Brock and Seth match, and out of the Kofi and Daniel Bryan match. Now I have no idea. Brock Lesnar could walk out of this with the belt still. They may try to push this to Saudi Arabia. They may try to have Roman Reigns get back into the mix. I really don't know. They've made Brock seems strong. They've made Seth seem strong. I wouldn't honestly be surprised if we saw Seth lose this match. But I'm also going to say that about Becky, too. I mean, it's changed so significantly. The landscape's changed that I really don't know what to expect going into this WrestleMania. The storylines have gone back and forth and all over the place. It's so convoluted at this point that I really can't say for sure. So as far as Drew McIntyre's involvement in the mix, this is just clearly his build to facing Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, and I truly believe Roman's going to win that one. I don't see how he doesn't. So next we got Finn Balor and Braun Strowman defeat Intercontinental Champion Bobby Lashley and Lio Rush. If Finn Balor is serious about keeping his championship drought a short one, he certainly got off on the right foot. The Irishman selected Braun Strowman as his mystery partner against Lio Rush and Intercontinental Champion Bobby Lashley, and his selection paid off in a major way. The monster among men has been in a little bit of a mood thanks to Colin Jost and Michael Che, and he was so dominant that the almighty straight up bailed on his hype man in the middle of the match. Lashley's walk left Rush to the mercy, or lack thereof, of a running power slam and a 1-2-3 that might mean more for Balor than it first appears. Yes, Strowman got the pinfall, but the W goes in the Irishman's books too, when it comes time to earning a title match that could go a long way. It may have been a glimpse into Strowman's future as well, as the Monster Among Men revealed in an interview later in the night. His ongoing beef with Che and Jost has left him so riled up that he's declaring for the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal so he can beat up everyone at once. He isn't above giving the Weekend Update duo these hands as well, much to the concern of WrestleMania host and Strowman's former mixed match challenge partner Alexa Bliss. Luckily, the goddess talked the monster down and bought herself some time to broker a peace. Not that much, however. Strowman's generosity isn't unlimited, and Alexa has 1 week to make things right. After that, all bets are off. So, Braun Strowman being the mystery partner, I suppose, doesn't come as much of a surprise as he and Finn have a history. But at this point, I'm so beyond Braun Strowman at all. Like, I'm over him. I think that they have done so much damage to his character that he is just the new Big Show. He is a comedy act, and I would not be surprised to see the Andre the Giant Battle Royal go in some sort of weird comedic direction where Colin Jost ends up eliminating Braun Strowman and possibly even winning the whole thing. And it's just... And the horrible part about this is that Braun Strowman was the focus of this match, not Bobby Lashley and Lio Rush, not Finn Balor. It was all about Braun Strowman, and that doesn't... It's so pointless, and I really do not want to see Finn Balor versus Bobby Lashley again at WrestleMania. I think that's just... Let's move on. I thought when Finn won the title, that was the end and we were moving on. Silly me, hoping for the best and getting the worst. This is part of the downside of filming at home. You can hear my dog whining like she always does in the background. Moving on, Elias defeated No Way Jose and announced he would be the headlining musical act for WrestleMania. If there's been one running thread throughout Elias's WWE career, it's that every time he picks up a guitar, he will be interrupted. Last week, the offending party was No Way Jose, and this week, it was again No Way Jose, who crashed the Living Truth's appearance on A Moment of Bliss in an ultimately unsuccessful bid for redemption after last week's shellacking. The Dominican dancing machine got off to a rollicking start, catching Elias unaware thanks to a bait-and-switch in which Heavy Machinery led the conga line and Jose disguised himself as the infamous Cheeseburger. But a strong opening for Jose ended in bitter fashion when Elias rallied with a top rope elbow drop and drift away, turning what began as a statement for his opponent into one of his own. As he announced on A Moment of Bliss, the Living Truth has secured the gig of headlining musical act for WrestleMania and is determined to get through the performance uninterrupted. This, then, was his warning. I'm also over Elias. I really thought he was red hot, and then they did a face turn and then a heel turn. Like they have no creative planning in mind for these guys, and it's just a waste. Now, one highlight was on one of the No Way Jose matches. He came out in a Pentagon mask, and I thought that was very funny and kind of must have not been caught by WWE management when he went out there, and I just find that funny. So, Kurt Angle defeats Chad Gable and revealed the identity of his final opponent. With Kurt Angle's farewell match at WrestleMania fast approaching, speculation has run rampant as to who the Olympic hero would face on the way out. Just prior to his final match in Chicago, Angle made a simple and appropriate selection, Baron Corbin. The Lone Wolf supplanted Angle as Raw GM and made his life miserable, so he's the one Angle wants to hobble before he calls it a day. And if you ask Corbin, that's just perfect, and he didn't hesitate to say so at the end of the Olympians match on Raw. As to that, Angle had picked Chad Gable as his final opponent in the Second City, and it quickly became apparent that he might have bitten off more than he can chew. The former Raw, SmackDown, and NXT Tag Team Champion moved like Angle in his prime and is a candidate for the same kind of longevity and dominance the elder Olympian enjoyed. Entering in his old American Alpha garb and a red, white, and blue singlet, Gable took Angle to the limit. He escaped the Angle Slam and locked in an ankle lock of his own, and might have won had he not gone high risk and whiffed on a moonsault. The missed maneuver left Gable exposed, and Angle pounced with a grapevine ankle lock to earn the submission, but Corbin wasn't exactly impressed with the performance. The Lone Wolf reared his head up after the tap-out had been recorded, promising a sweet victory for himself in 3 weeks, and leaving Angle with the ominous words that all the WWE Universe tends to remember is the superstar's final match. Whether that's a glimpse of a harsh truth to come or just the psych-up material Angle needs for his last ride, however, remains to be seen. I hate this choice. I would have really rather preferred to see Chad Gable or Shelton Benjamin in Angle's final match, and word in the dirt sheets is because of the negative reaction this received, they're actually going to change that match. So it's very possible this week on Raw we see something happen where Baron Corbin's taken out of the mix and he is replaced by my pick, John Cena, or Shelton Benjamin, or Chad Gable, or someone like that. I'd really, really rather see this last match be a good one with someone who can make him look good, because Baron Corbin won't do him any favors, and I don't think he'll do Baron Corbin any favors. So that's kind of my thoughts. WWE Women's Tag Team Champion Sasha Banks defeats Natalya via disqualification, and Beth Phoenix offered to come out of retirement for WrestleMania. Hooray! Sasha Banks and Bayley have been making the rounds on Raw and NXT to scout prospective challengers for their WWE Women's Tag Team titles, but they needn't have searched so far and wide. Their WrestleMania opponents might be coming to them after a couple weeks at commentary, during which she found herself throwing hands with the new generation of superstars. Beth Phoenix offered to come out of retirement for a past versus present clash of the Boston Hug Connection and the Divas of Doom at WrestleMania, potentially setting the Glamazon up for one accolade she missed out on in her Hall of Fame career. Nia Jax and Tamina aren't about to let themselves be passed over, however. The twice-spurned Samoan Slaughterhouse interfered in the Boss's bout with Beth's partner Natalya, itself stemming from a tense war of words between the two teams in the wake of Beth's challenge, leading to a disqualification victory for the Boss after Tamina appeared from beneath the ring and super kicked everything that moved. If nothing else, the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships are set up to have a very interesting first WrestleMania season, and we haven't even gotten to the IKonics persistent challenges yet. But perhaps the champ's appearance on tomorrow's SmackDown Live will shed some light on that front. Obviously, we will get to those results. I am finding this to be very, very frustrating to read these things. But yeah, I'm happy Beth Phoenix is back. Obviously, they wanted to have a big match at WrestleMania. I'm not sure if they couldn't secure Trish Stratus and Lita or what the situation was there, but it sounds like this is going to be a really unnecessarily overbooked match. Tamina and Nia versus Beth and Natalya versus probably the IKonics and the Boston Hug Connection. So a four corners match. I don't get the obsession with doing this. It's just getting as many people on WrestleMania as you can, and it's already going to be an unnecessarily long show, and this is probably going to be an unnecessarily long match. So I don't get it, and I don't care. Ricochet defeats Jinder Mahal. Since his WWE debut, Ricochet has become such a key player in the tag team divisions of Raw, SmackDown Live, and NXT that the WWE Universe hasn't got much of a look at him in singles action. In short, he's still pretty great there too. Facing Jinder Mahal, the one and only needed only a second of separation, and he made good on it once he got it, rallying from the Maharaja's ground and pound strategy to unleash a truly remarkable sequence of maneuvers. The display culminated in a space-flying tiger drop onto Mahal and the Singh brothers on the outside, and a 630 to Mahal's sternum moments later sealed the bout. You'd be forgiven for rewinding the ending of this match until your DVR ran out of battery, but better to save the space. Perhaps the most impressive aspect of this win over a former WWE champion is that it's only a matter of time before he goes above and beyond it, both figuratively and, of course, literally. What? DVR runs out of battery? Like, whose DVR runs on battery? Aren't they all plugged into the wall? That was a really long recap for a Ricochet match that was really just could have been Ricochet beats Jinder Mahal, and the caption could have just been duh. I mean, who was really surprised by that? I get they're getting Ricochet over. I'm still not sure what their plan for Ricochet and Aleister Black is. Are they going to put him in a title match? What are they doing with that? I know that they're also still on NXT, and I'm not sure if they're going to be performing on TakeOver the night before, but I don't... Anyway, Raw Women's Champion Ronda Rousey defeated Dana Brooke. Again, I'm just going to say, duh. We didn't really need this 2-paragraph long description, but let's read it anyway. Dana Brooke isn't wrong that WrestleMania season is a time when underdogs become legends, but there was no storybook ending in her improbable Raw Women's Championship match. Despite earning the first title match of her career by standing up to Ronda Rousey last week, Brooke was savaged in short order by the baddest woman on the planet, and the security team WWE hired to prevent further aggression from Rousey quickly followed. Rousey and her husband, UFC heavyweight Travis Browne, each laid out a member of the security squad before making their way out of the arena through the concourse. It was the most unhinged display of physicality yet from the champion. Clearly, last week's find did not do anything to deter her, and when all is said and done, the WWE Universe might look back on this evening as the night they should have seen what was coming Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair's way. In that respect, and its own twisted fashion, this match might land Dana Brooke a line in the history books after all. One of the things that WWE writers really need to work on is their run-on sentences, because this was so long to say so little. This is one of those things now, with the way things have been changing, I'm not sure if Becky Lynch is a shoo-in for that title. I'm not sure that it is going to end with Ronda Rousey not having that title. She might very well have that title. This feud has actually done a lot to put her over as a heel and make her look super strong. Now, this could be to make Becky look like she's overcoming even greater odds, but it could also just be that Ronda Rousey's going to be a dominant champion. We kind of saw this with Brock Lesnar, so I'm really not sure which direction this is going to go. Apollo Crews defeats Baron Corbin. They've been telling this weird story where Baron fights whoever Kurt just fought and loses. So I'm not sure if this is supposed to end in an upset at WrestleMania with Baron defeating Kurt, but I still, like I said earlier, don't think that Baron Kurt match is actually going to happen. So I think that's going to be changed. The WWE Universe is not thrilled with Baron Corbin facing Kurt Angle as the Olympian's final WWE opponent at WrestleMania. Baron Corbin doesn't care. And tonight, at least it cost him. Corbin's opponent for Raw was Apollo Crews, an Angle admirer who challenged the Lone Wolf to defend his idol's honor, but the former constable instead reserved his focus for the audience, who showered him with booze. As a result, Crews caught him with a small package for the victory and shared an embrace with Angle atop the ramp. Corbin can talk all he wants about a, quote, river of tears, unquote, for a disappointed audience, but if there's any lesson for him as WrestleMania approaches, it's that he would do well to remember who exactly he's sharing the ring with. So the secret to defeating Baron Corbin in history is a roll-up or a small package. For some reason, that's his kryptonite. He lost to John Cena that way. He's lost to several other opponents that way. If you're ever going to be in a match with Baron Corbin, just remember roll-up, small package. Batista told his side of his rivalry with Triple H. Now, this is not surprising. Triple H. This is not surprising. They need to extend the feud, so they're going to have these interview segments. They're going to have some back and forth. That's exactly what they're going to do. So you'd be forgiven for thinking Batista had lost all measure of self-control in the run-up to his no-holds-barred match with Triple H at WrestleMania, but the Animals satellite interview with Michael Cole told a very different story. The Batista who answered Cole's questions did so carefully and thoughtfully. If nothing else, he has given his long history with the King of Kings a lot of consideration, and the roots of his grudge go as far back as his in-ring career. Excuse me. Speaking in a level, calm voice, Batista disputed the notion that he owed his career to Triple H, who he believes never saw him as anything more than his personal muscle. He also pinned his infamous 2010 exit, he doesn't like to say he quit, on the fact that the game chose to hold him down as his boss rather than support his ambitions as a friend. As far as Batista is concerned, the fact that he managed to get this WrestleMania match is proof positive that Triple H never quite gave him the respect he deserved. After all, he left the company and attained enough of a reputation to bend the master manipulator to his will. On that front, the only time Batista's aggression got the better of him was when Cole attempted to defend the game's integrity. Removing his shades, the animal insisted that Triple H has the entire WWE office fooled and is as dangerous and controlling as he's ever been. He ended the interview with a twofold prediction that Mr. McMahon would fire Triple H and end the game's professional career, and Batista would take care of the in-ring portion at WrestleMania. Bold words, to be sure, but if nothing else, the interview made clear that Big Dave has given a lot of thought to who he's facing. Triple H might not be able to say the same. Yeah, I mean, that's typical WrestleMania build. So I really didn't have a lot of thoughts on it. I love Batista's work. Obviously, acting has done him a ton of good. His promos are fantastic. This was no exception. It was a really, really good promo. And I think that so far, he has been outpacing Triple H in this feud. I think that his segments have been fantastic. And Triple H is responding in typical Triple H fashion. And it doesn't really do anything for me. But Batista, I'm so glad to see him doing this feud. I know he's been wanting it for a while, so he's probably been building these segments and these promos in his mind for a long time, and now he's finally getting to do them. Drew McIntyre defeated Seth Rollins and challenged Roman Reigns to a, quote, fight at WrestleMania. Now the cats are jumping on the desk. Drew McIntyre is all about speaking destructive goals and making them into reality, as he shared an ominous opening bit of business before facing Seth Rollins, seeking to complete his dismantling of the Shield and establish his dominance over WWE. The Scottish psychopath challenged Roman Reigns to a, quote, fight at WrestleMania, addressing him by his given name of Joe, and begging the big dog to refuse for the sake of his wife and children. As for his seeming insistence on looking past Seth Rollins, he made good on that as well by defeating the Kingslayer, though it's fair to say he had a little bit of help. It's also fair to say he needed it. Left fuming by McIntyre's disrespect to Reigns, the Kingslayer rode an emotional wave of adrenaline out of a deep hole against the Scotsman. But Brock Lesnar's music hit just seconds before he was set to deliver the stomp, and McIntyre capitalized on the distraction, bulldozing Rollins with a Claymore to earn an impressive, if ill-gotten, victory. Now, McIntyre has indeed dispatched 2 of the 3 Hounds of Justice in the ring, and he has a very real chance of making the trifecta should Reigns accept. Rollins, however, might just be left with more uncertainty than he thought as he prepares to face Lesnar, perhaps even on a fundamental level. As much as he says he's better than all the same speedy superstars who took the beast to the limit, the last word on Raw is that Rollins fell into the same trap they did. To a man, they had Brock Lesnar right where they wanted him, and to a man, they lost. Again, it's I don't know what their focus is here. They are focusing so much on McIntyre and less on Rollins that I can't say for certain that Rollins is going to have a strong victory at WrestleMania. I mean, they're not even in the main event. It was officially announced by WWE this week that it's going to be the women's match as the main event, which makes me think, okay, they want to end things on a happy note. They'll probably have Becky win. But then again, they had Lesnar win last year, even though everyone was expecting Roman to win. So I don't know if they're going to pull a swerve on how they're going to do the layout of the matches or how the finishes are going to go. But right now, I see no reason why Rollins should win. I don't. They haven't given him a lot of momentum. In fact, if anything, I feel like they've sandbagged him due to injury and due to other things that have been, the Shield and Roman coming back. I feel like all of that fire and momentum that Seth Rollins had going forward just completely tanked. And I just don't see why a win at WrestleMania for him is a certainty anymore. So that was Raw. It is like it has been. I mean, these shows are way too long. They are convoluted and overbooked at times and don't really tell a very solid story. They're clearly trying to have WrestleMania take shape, but I feel like with the storytelling they do leading up to WrestleMania, Fastlane provides so much of a speed bump that they have to rush everything in this last month to tell this story, and it can be overwhelming as an audience. So, SmackDown Live. Once it loads, I had it loaded up, but now I'm waiting for it to load. Yeah, anyway. Speed bump. So SmackDown Live emanated from the Bankers Life Fieldhouse in Indianapolis, Indiana. Let's see. The Miz addressed Shane McMahon's Savage Assault. Now, I have to say, strangely enough, this Shane versus Miz feud is one of the better things happening on WWE TV right now. And I think Miz gave a really good promo this week. So, 9 nights after being savagely pummeled by Shane McMahon in front of his family and friends in the hometown of Cleveland, The Miz returned to SmackDown Live with a message to his former partner. Miz was brutally honest, opening up about his insecurities, the shortcuts he has taken, and the people he has used on his way to the top of WWE. The A-lister admitted that he initially wanted to use Shane, but he claimed that his relationship with Shane O'Mac changed him and made him a better person. So when Shane stabbed him in the back, it made him realize the differences between the two. Shane's been handed everything he's ever had, while The Miz worked for his success. The emotional A-lister said Shane O'Mac finally worked for something after his former SmackDown commissioner shoved Miz's father, and that's the beating that he is going to get at WrestleMania. Great promo. I think this face turn for The Miz has been the best he's done yet. We saw a previous face turn when he was trying to be buddy-buddy with Ric Flair and do the figure four and all that kind of stuff, and it just didn't work out the same. And I feel like this face turn has been really good for him, and it's really solidified him, and I think Shane O'Mac actually has been the perfect foil for him in this case. The IKonics defeat Sasha Banks and Bayley. After the IKonics spent weeks prodding the Boss and Hug Connection to come and challenge them on SmackDown Live, Sasha Banks and Bayley arrived on the Blue Brand to face off against Billie Kay and Peyton Royce. The IKonics may have been regretting their persistence and their harsh pre-match words in the early goings when Sasha and Bayley came out of the gates hot, keeping the IKonics guessing what they would hit them with next. However, the tides turned when the arrival and exit of, quote, the sassy Southern Belle, end quote, Lacey Evans distracted the Boss and Hug Connection enough to let the IKonics take control. In the clutch, Billy took out Bayley on the outside with a big boot, and then, unbeknownst to the official, helped Peyton hold Banks down for the 3 count. With the IKonics' victory over the first ever WWE Women's Tag Team Champions, the WWE Universe is left to wonder what impact that would have on the future of the division. Obviously, they're getting added to that match, so it's going to be a 4-corner tag match. I hate those, but we're going to see it at WrestleMania. The IKonics are in no way going to win those belts, but they are padding the match and having some SmackDown representation, I guess, on that show. Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair got into a wild brawl on the Kevin Owens show. With the Raw Women's Championship picture heating up, the Kevin Owens show welcomed Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair. Kevin Owens went through the litany of things all 3 superstars have said about their opponents and then suggested that the time for talking was over and that Becky and Charlotte should get into it tonight. This suggestion set off the Queen, who told the man that she would beat her to a pulp if they got into it tonight. Becky's response? A stiff punch to Flair's jaw. From there, the two threw down in and out of the ring before WWE officials and security arrived to separate the two. Even then, Lynch and Flair did not hesitate to drop those trying to get in the way of their scrap before the two were finally pulled apart, but probably for only so long. I love Kevin Owens, and I kind of like this face tweener thing he's doing. I've always thought he's a better heel, but in this case, I think he's a great face and a good instigator in this stuff. As far as the Charlotte-Becky stuff, I still don't like Charlotte being in this match. I still don't like the convoluted way they've gone about making this match. And I'm kind of cool on the fact, I've cooled on the fact that they're going to be the main event of WrestleMania because the story has gotten so skewed and swayed and thrown around. I'm like, is this even a main event caliber match anymore? So I don't know. Kofi Kingston was blindsided when Mr. McMahon added Daniel Bryan to the gauntlet match. So Kofi had an amazing gauntlet match. I'm not even going to read this full description because it is almost a page long. But he had an amazing gauntlet match, as we knew he would. And as we knew they would, WWE tried to swerve again by adding Bryan and having Bryan beat Kofi at the, quote, end of the gauntlet. And I think that this is turning into the feud of WrestleMania. I don't know how they did it since it clearly wasn't planned, but I think Kofi and his passion, Daniel's passion, their ability to work so well together is making this the feud to watch going into WrestleMania, and I'm totally on board for it. I really am. I think that it's becoming more clear in my mind that the solid decision for the business and for the show is to have Kofi beat Daniel Bryan. Considering that there's a Saudi Arabia show coming up and Daniel Bryan doesn't go to those, I think business-wise, we're going to see Kofi take that title, not only because Kofi deserves it, but because he will take the belt to Saudi Arabia and they won't have to worry about it not being represented on that show. So I think it's a tactful move by WWE, and it's actually turned out to be an amazing story as well. So I was very happy with that. If there's anything that you should have watched this week, it was that gauntlet match and all the promos surrounding it and the after show promo from Big E and the New Day. The whole thing just has a real shoot feel to it, and that's something I appreciate about it. So the Raw preview, I'm going to just try to run through it really quick. All of this is courtesy of WWE.com. So if you're really sick of the run-on sentences, don't blame me, blame them. I am just reading them verbatim. Fight or flight. It seemed for a while like Drew McIntyre's claim to have single-handedly broken the Shield was just posturing, but the Scottish psychopath has now beaten 2 of the 3 Hounds of Justice and left the third, Roman Reigns, in such a heap he couldn't make last week's show. McIntyre leveled an official WrestleMania challenge at the Big Dog in the hopes of completing the trifecta, and while Reigns has yet to address the challenge, the clock is ticking. Now the former Universal Champion, who only just returned to the ring after his battle with leukemia, finds himself with a poignant decision: accept the challenge and defend his brother's legacy, or decline and all but concede that someone else runs his yard. Roman's going to respond. He's going to beat McIntyre at Mania. That's it. That's just it. Simple. Phoenix Saga. Beth Phoenix offered to end her retirement and challenge the Boston Hug Connection for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships at WrestleMania, but the title picture isn't quite that cut and dry. Nia Jax and Tamina are still lurking around the edges, and the IKonics pinned the champs on SmackDown Live, not to mention the match isn't even official yet. The Glamazon's obviously been putting in the work, and her big gambit might yet pay off. But with a long hiatus behind her and a crowded field in front of her, the WWE Hall of Famers return could just as easily flame out before it starts. This whole story is about Beth Phoenix. It has very little to do with the tag titles. And if you're Natalya, you got to feel like, oh, just business as usual. I'm just in the background. But the farewell tour continues. Like the headline says, Raw will play host to the next stop of Kurt Angle's last ride through the WWE Universe before he faces Baron Corbin at WrestleMania and hangs up his gold medals for good. The Olympic hero has not been shy about testing himself on the way out, tussling with uber-talented rising stars like Apollo Crews and Chad Gable, who took Angle to his limit on last week's show. Who will he select for his final foe in Boston? I'm expecting in the next couple weeks here to see Shelton Benjamin be one of his opponents because of that whole greatest tag team, the Angle connection there. I feel like it's just a necessary fit to have Shelton Benjamin be one of his opponents. I also wouldn't be surprised if we saw a cameo from Charlie Haas at some point. I think that would be really cool. So I wouldn't be surprised if it happened, but I also kind of would be because he's not in WWE. Family affair. When Ronda Rousey said she was going to throw out the rulebook in the final push to WrestleMania, she really meant it. 1 week after slugging an official, the baddest woman on the planet brought her husband, Travis Browne, to ringside, and he didn't hesitate to get involved in another scrum following Rousey's evisceration of Dana Brooke. In fact, both Rousey and Browne laid out a member of the security squad hired to prevent further incidents. Rousey's last infraction resulted in an undisclosed fine. Now that she's bringing civilians into the fray, there's no telling what repercussions await, if any. I think this was a really bad move. To have Travis Browne get involved is just being like, why can't she fight her own battles? Why does she have to bring him into it? This is just more unnecessary, convoluted storytelling that's not going to help this main event at all. It really isn't. I mean, is he going to be at ringside? Is he going to be, in the crowd? Is he going to get involved? I really hope not, because that just lessens Rousey's claim and just messes with this match unnecessarily. One giant leap. Braun Strowman officially became the first entrant into the 6th Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal this past Monday, citing a general desire to beat up everyone he lays his eyes on thanks to the foul mood brought on by his interactions with Saturday Night Live's Colin Jost and Michael Che. The Andre is, of course, open to any who are interested in participating, so it's possible that a few more superstars throw their hats into the ring this Monday. Then again, the idea of tussling with an angry Strowman might seem a little too risky for even the boldest of the Team Red talents. Speaking of Strowman, it's been 1 week. They linked 2 different parts of the article together. Hoping to prevent a scene at the show of shows, WrestleMania host Alexa Bliss boldly inserted herself into the drama between Strowman, Jost, and Che, cashing in on her Team Little Big Goodwill. The goddess secured a 1-week armistice between the Monster Among Men and the Weekend Update anchors, who will also be serving as WrestleMania's special guest correspondents. Strowman agreed to give Alexa the time to broker peace, but the clock strikes midnight on Monday, and Bliss will be hard-pressed to secure the desired results or simply hope for the best come April 7th. Don't miss any of the action on Monday Night Raw, live at 8/7 Central on USA Network. So, they're not talking at all about the tag team division. They talked very little about Seth Rollins or Roman Reigns. I don't know if this is just stall tactics, if they're just stretching out everything leading into WrestleMania, or I don't know what they're doing. I really, really don't. The picture has become so muddled and not clear to me that I'm kind of losing track of the road to WrestleMania. But we're going to do the best we can. We will keep the Turnpike running all the way up till WrestleMania and probably beyond. We might even extend it for the whole year leading up to WrestleMania in Tampa, which we will hopefully be a huge part of it. That is our goal at the end of this Turnpike. So anyway, if you don't get time to watch Raw and SmackDown, I'm glad you're catching up with me. And as always, this Turnpike is toll free.